My name is Linda and I'm 55 years old. I've lived in the same small coastal town for over 2 decades, where the sea breeze is part of the rhythm of life. Every morning starts the same. Coffee brewed just as the sun rises, the ocean stretching out like a silver ribbon beyond my back deck. It's the kind of life people dream of retiring to. Peaceful, predictable. And yet, one rainy afternoon in March, I opened a door I hadn't opened in years. It was the storage room in the back of my house. A place where I kept memories boxed away. Literally. Old photo albums. My husband's fishing gear. Letters from a life that used to feel fuller. My husband passed away 6 years ago. Since then I've kept myself busy. Volunteering at the library, learning watercolor, and growing tomatoes that never seemed to ripen. I smiled when I had to, laughed when it was polite, and lived within the routine I had built for myself. But that afternoon something nudged me. I walked into that room and started sorting through the past. There it was. A dusty leather notebook. Flipping it open, I saw his handwriting. Familiar, slanted, still strong even in the final months. But what surprised me wasn't what he wrote about me or the kids. It was what he wrote about himself. I wish Linda could see how brave she is, one page read. She thinks I'm the strong one, but she's the reason I kept fighting. I stood frozen for several minutes. My knees felt weak, so I sat on the wooden floor, notebook still in my hands. How had I never read this before? How had I forgotten how deeply we used to connect, before the grief and the silence settled in? The next page was a list. Not of errands or doctor's appointments, but of dreams he never got to live out. Places he wanted us to go. Things he wanted to build. Books he wanted to read. And one line at the bottom. If she ever finds this, tell her it's okay to start again. That night I couldn't sleep. I made tea and sat by the window listening to the rain. My reflection stared back at me. Tired eyes, soft lines around my mouth, hair that had begun to silver at the edges. But I didn't see a woman who was finished. I saw someone who had paused. The next morning I went into town and signed up for something I had always been curious about. Ceramics. I walked into a studio full of strangers and clay and unfamiliar tools. And I felt nervous, but also alive. A few weeks later, I sold my first piece at a local market. Not because I needed the money, but because a woman stopped at my booth, picked up the piece and said, "This feels like it has a story." She was right. My days are still quiet. I still drink the same coffee and hear the same ocean. But inside I feel different. Not because of a dramatic event. Not because someone saved me. But because I allowed myself to walk into a room I'd avoided, and found something waiting. Sometimes the door we fear holds the very thing we need to remember who we are. This is not a story about endings. It's a story about permission. Permission to begin again. Any age.